So we will talk about that. So what does this article 42 talk about? It talks about, again, working conditions. So you see a lot of the articles that are there in DPSP are related to workers and weaker and marginalized sections of society, and that is why DPSPs become very important. So they are the ones which are actually seeking to bring that social justice. They're all various forms of social justice, including what is talked about in Article 42 in the form of humane working. Humane is slightly different than human. It is not noun and verb relationship. Humane means something that is related to bettering people's lives, making their lives more dignified, reducing their sufferings. Okay, that is humane. But humane means what? So humane conditions means conditions that are better, conditions that are more suitable for work, conditions that are better for the workers, right? They reduce their suffering, they reduce their chances of accident, they make their work easier, right? The word humane means something that makes people's lives or human lives better, less suffering, and perhaps more enjoyable, right? That's humane. So you have to humane working conditions होनी चाहिए. It talks about that. Working conditions का मतलब ही हुआ this is for workers, right? And then it talks about additionally maternity benefits. So government of course has taken some measures in this direction, right? So there used to be Factories Act which stipulated working conditions earlier, so earlier there was the Factories Act. There were many other acts. Now when it comes to labor laws, we would know that there were large number of labor laws. And when the government undertook this exercise of simplifying these labor codes or labor laws, one of the objective was to reduce that number, right? And one of the reasons why there was a large number of labor laws in India pertaining to various aspects of labor and industries is that the subject of labor is put in the concurrent list, right? Labor is in the concurrent list. Concurrent list, So being it in concurrent list, what does it mean? It means that the central and state government both can make laws, which means that if the central government makes a few laws, then state governments can also. So every state government can come up with 2-3 laws relating to labor, and that would take the number to more than 100, right? And that is what has actually happened. So there were large number of labor laws. And at the same time, there's one more thing that was being addressed here. So government was also talking about ease of doing business. Have you heard this term? You might have heard this term. So this was one objective: ease of doing business. So what do? How do you make doing business easier, right? Because it was thought that in India it is very difficult to start a business and to run a business because there's so many regulations, so many laws, labor laws, factory laws, laws related to industrial relations between the business owners and the workers, right? Environmental laws, lots of permissions from various departments, and that was leading to difficulty in doing business. So the government came up with this idea of ease of doing business to attract more and more businesses. And then there was another thing that was simultaneously going on, that was labor reform. So you see these two things are related to each other. And one may actually say that depending on what point of view you're looking at these things, for example, from a labor's point of view, a worker's point of view, what would labor reform suggest for a worker? For a worker, labor reforms would be the reforms that make workers' lives better, right? It ensures better remuneration, better wages, better working conditions, more stability of job, right? Less firing, more rest periods, more social security, more pension, more flexibility in terms of working, right? These are the reforms that the labor would look at if there are supposed to be some labor reforms. But from the industry's point of view, or the point of view for the business owners, what will be the reform? Labor reform?
Easy entry and exit of labor.
So these two, if you see from the workers' point of view, and business owners' point of view, they appear to be against each other. The business owner would want it to be very easy to get anybody on job and fire them. Hire and fire should be easy. Worker, on the other hand, would look for more stability and more difficult provisions as to the retrenchment or firing. Business owner would want less restrictions or less we may say stringent provisions in terms of wages. Labor want them to be very stringent, right? Working conditions, when working conditions have to be improved, of course it entails certain cost on the part of the business owner, so they would not like to put that cost, invest that money which would improve working conditions. So you see, they are actually against each other. They need not be so, but normally speaking they would be. So if the government is attempting to do this, what are they likely to do? If they have to improve ease of doing business, that is certainly from the point of view of the business owners, right? Not